So let's talk about generational trauma and how to actually break it. So, have you ever heard your parents' voice come out of your mouth? Yeah, me too. Like you swore you'd never say these certain things. You promised yourself you'd parent differently and maybe even practice gentle parenting. And then one day you hear yourself snap at your child in the exact same tone that your mom or dad used with you. And you just freeze because in that moment you realize I'm repeating the cycle. The one that I said I would break. This is childhood trauma showing up in real time. So if you've been in that moment, I need you to hear this, that you are not broken and you are not failing. And the fact that you're even aware of these patterns, that alone means you're already doing the work of breaking the cycle. Okay? Most people never even get into awareness, but you're here. You're watching this video, you're showing up and you're trying. And before we go deeper, if this is resonating, hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed because this is the work here. This is the real, vulnerable, brave work of healing while you're parenting. And I'm just so glad that you're here to join me. So let's talk about what this really feels like because it's not just about saying something you didn't mean to say. It's deeper than that. It's the fear that you're passing down your own anxiety, your own reactivity, your own wounds to your kids, right? It's mom guilt. It's lying in bed at night and replaying the day and thinking, I sounded just like my parents and I hated when they did that to me. It's honestly terrifying, okay? Because you want so badly to do better, to create emotional safety, to practice positive parenting, to do the inner child work and emotional healing, and yet these old patterns just keep showing up. So sometimes before you even realize what's happening, they pop out. And this is the work of healing trauma in real time. So here's what's actually going on when we're talking about family trauma and how to regulate emotions. You're not consciously choosing to repeat these patterns, but you're operating from like subconscious programs that were formed in your brain before you were even 7 years old. So think about that for a second. The way that your parents responded to you, their tone, their stress, their emotional regulation or lack of it, that became your blueprint for how emotions work and how relationships work. And when you're stressed or you're triggered as a parent now, your brain defaults back to that original blueprint. So it's not a character flaw. It's your nervous system running on autopilot. And this is where mindful parenting and conscious parenting comes in because learning emotional regulation as an adult is a must. We grow as our children grow, hand in hand, okay? Here's how the cycle works. Something happens. Your kids spill the milk or they won't put their shoes on or they talk back and that triggers something inside of you. Maybe it reminds your subconscious of a time when you got in trouble for the same thing. Or maybe it just hits a stress point. And before you can think about it, an old script plays. The ones that your parents used. The one you swore you'd never use. And you react. And then afterwards the guilt sets in. You feel terrible. You promise yourself it won't happen again. And then it does. Because you haven't interrupted that pattern at the root yet. So let me share something really vulnerable with you. Growing up, I was a very sensitive kid. And when I would get upset or emotional, I was often told that I was too sensitive. Or stop crying and I'll give you something to cry about type of stuff. So I learned to shut down my emotions and I learned that feelings and just feeling things deeply wasn't safe. And you know what happened when I became a mom? When my son would have really big emotions and crying, frustration, anger, I would feel this overwhelming urge just to make it stop. Not because I didn't care, but because his big emotions triggered this old wound in me that said emotions aren't safe. And I'd say things like, you're fine. It's not a big deal. Stop crying. And one day I heard myself and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm doing to him what was done to me. And that was my turning point because I realized if I want to parent differently, I have to heal differently. So how do we actually break these cycles? Well, let me give you some tools, some like little quick sprouts for in the moment help, and some are actually going to be more like deep roots for long-term healing, okay? So the first tool is what I call perspective shifting, and this is like a quicker one. In the moment, when you feel that old pattern rising up, you can pause and ask yourself, is this really about my child right now? Or is this something from my past? And sometimes just that awareness is enough to interrupt that automatic reaction. So tool number 2 is going to be modeling repair. And you can start on this as like a quick sprout, but the more you practice it, the more it becomes like deeply rooted. So this one is so big. When you do repeat a pattern, or when you do snap or say something that you regret, you repair afterwards. You get down on their level after you've completely calmed down, and you say, hey, mama got really frustrated. I spoke to you in a way that wasn't kind, and that wasn't okay. I'm really sorry. I'm working on that. Or maybe you can say, mom was really frustrated about something that had nothing to do with you, and I didn't mean to take it out on you like that. I'm sorry for that. And then you can say, help me think of a way that I could handle this better. Or next time I'm going to make sure I take a deep breath first before we chat about this. Repair, it doesn't erase what happened, but it teaches your child that mistakes don't define us and that we can always come back to connection. So it's important to model this for your kids. So another tool is called open emotional processing. And this one is a deeper one. Again, this means creating space for your child to have their feelings. So even when it's uncomfortable for you, when they're upset, instead of trying to fix it or stop it, you just stay present with them. I see you're really frustrated right now. It's okay to feel that way. I'm right here with you. That is you rewriting the script. That's you teaching them that emotions are safe. You're naming the emotion and kind of helping them process it and showing that it's okay to feel that, right? So another tool, and this one is a bit of a deep root. It takes longer to master. I call it the subconscious switch. Like I said, it takes practice, but it's powerful. You start to notice the old script, and when it shows up, you consciously choose a new response. So what I do with my clients is we actually write this stuff down, and we do it together, and we process it, and then they review it regularly throughout the week. So, for example, an old script would be, stop crying. And then a new script would be, I see you're upset. Tell me what's going on. An old script would be, why can't you just listen? And a new script would be, let me try that again. I need you to put your shoes on. So every time you choose the new script, you're building a new neural pathway, and you're literally rewiring your brain. And here's the important part, is that you are the first safe generation in your family line. The first one. That means you're doing something your parents didn't know how to do. They did the best they could, maybe, with what they had. Maybe it was a little bit better than what their parents gave them, but you're breaking patterns that have been passed down for generations. And that is very hard work, but it's also the most important work. Your kids won't remember that you got it perfect, but they will remember that you tried, that you repaired, and that you kept showing up even when it was hard. And I'm going to normalize something for you. You're not going to get this right every time. You're going to have days where you fall back into old patterns, days where you sound exactly like your parents, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that you failed. It means you're human. It means you're healing in real time while you're also raising tiny humans. We're thinking about progress, not perfection, every single time, okay? So this week, I want you to try just one thing. Maybe it's choosing a new script when an old one tries to show up. You can write that old one down if you notice one that shows up all the time, and then write down your new version of it that you're going to say. And then you'll become more aware of it when it comes out, and you can switch to the new one. Maybe it's repairing out loud after you slipped. Maybe it's just giving yourself grace when you're not perfect, because every small choice that you make to do it differently makes a difference. That's you breaking the cycle. That's generational healing happening in real time. So in the next video, we're going to be talking about boundary setting and specifically how to parent a strong-willed child without yelling. Because if you've got a child who literally fights you on everything, I'm going to show you how to honor their fire while still being the leader that they need. Okay, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that one, and I'll see you there.